Hey everyone, I'm recording a short video to talk just about the brush strokes in this painting. I've got the picture all loaded up on my iPad. I am on the Art Institute of Chicago's website, so I can zoom in and talk about the different brush strokes. But basically, I wanted to talk about the brush strokes because I talked a lot about brush strokes in the last class. But one thing I didn't mention was sort of the big picture. You may have heard me talk about making X shapes, which you can sort of see through here. And you can also see like there's like the C shapes or the comma shapes. And there's horizontal brush marks. And you may have seen me moving my brush really rapidly and making all kinds of marks. However, these marks all add up to something, okay? They all contribute to the greater vision of this painting. And let me just talk about that for a little bit. Down here, you can see that in general, they lie kind of horizontal. Now, if you zoom in closer, you know, there's lots of different ways that they're lying. You can see kind of like a little dash here. You can see a little curve here. You can see kind of a shape like this. And from far away, what people see are the ovals, right? But the ovals in themselves are made up of many different brush strokes that add up to an oval, okay? Now, let's look at this whole thing once again. So down here, we've got, as I said, more of the horizontal. However, this part in here is extremely interesting to me because it kind of describes this upward movement, which is just so beautiful. It how to describe it? Well, it's moving water. Keep in mind that it is moving water with depth, right? It has a lot of depth, and that's what these brushstrokes are describing. So we've got more of a horizontal movement through here, and then they lift and they take off, right? So you can kind of see this flurry that's like all these X marks, and then it kind of moves up this way, but then something is really remarkable also happening up here. They're even more horizontal and calm than down here because they're far away, right? And they're all kind of, you know, blending together a little bit more. And notice how also how the shape of the ovals have changed as well. You don't see these little individual lily pads. They've all merged into like this much greater collection of lily pads that also add up into the ovals that you see down here. But basically what's happening up here is sort of a flip of what's happening down here. We've also got the horizontal lines, but you can see here with the reflection, this part is swooping down, right? Like a big hand, and it's just there's so much movement in this painting. And so I really wanted to say this and actually have it on my iPad all kind of loaded up here so you can really see what I mean. Also, notice how some brush strokes are very hard. They have what are called harder edges, so you can see that. Well, when you zoom in, it's not really, it's actually fuzzy, but you can see how the contrast between this area and this area is great. But then you've got an incredible softness through here. And you can actually see that the values are very close. And by value, I mean how light and dark something is. So if I were to turn this into a black and white image, it would be very difficult to see. You would see that these values are very, very, very close, right? You can see, you know, Monet was a colorist, so you can see the difference because this is green here and this is purple here, and then we've got a lot more white and yellow right here. But up here, do you see how everything is just very soft and very blended in? And then up here, it's very thick, extremely thick paint. And this is why in our last class, I was really stressing use soft brush strokes. You know, don't use a lot of paint. Really get those edges blended, because you want the dramatic statement to be the flowers and the lily pads. That's where your thick textured paint is going to come in. And not that there isn't thick paint down under here. It's just the lily pads have a lot of texture and a lot of weight to them. And they're kind of, you know, doing their own thing. They're floating on this water. And so once again, we've got a more of a horizontal feeling, more of a feeling of rest, right? With these flowers down here and these brush strokes. And then it just takes off right through here. And this almost reminds me of fish kind of swimming, kind of, you know, moving through here. And then it just kind of goes up here and rests. But meanwhile, this part is coming down like this. So let's talk a little bit more about the individual brush strokes. You can see there's all different kinds of marks. I mean, how to even describe these marks is extraordinary. And you don't, one thing Monet was not, he was not repetitive, okay? And sometimes that's what makes people say, oh, it looks like a kid did that, but it's actually really, really, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of mindfulness to make marks like this. Like, for example, if we were to look at this, this brownish patch right here and compare it to this patch, you'll see these shapes are very different. This one has a long shape through here, and then it kind of grows and comes up like this. And then this curves this way. So there's a lot of opposition that's happening just in this little patch right here. This is kind of going like this, and this is going like this, and then this. And then this is kind of all, this is like smaller and more dense, and it's more collected. So if you can just take some time on this website, I gave you all the link. Just take some time and just get lost not only in the colors but the brush strokes, because they have a magic and a life that is all their own. Each one is unique, but they all contribute to the greater dance that is this painting. And like this shape, if you look at this shape and then compare it to this shape right here, and then the shapes themselves are made up of little brush strokes, right? All made up. And you can see how this is like more soft, like the edges. And so when I talk about edges a lot, what do I mean by an edge? An edge is simply where one form ends and another begins. So in, I guess the most dramatic example I could point to is here. So an edge is simply like right where this, here, let me get this camera to focus here. It's right where this white ends and the green begins. You can see it's very clearly defined here. Very thick paint, and it suddenly stops, right? It stops pretty quickly because look, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's just so many colors in between the colors here. I just love this website. You can see how there's like a little bit of blue here, and then under here it's more of a yellow green. But you can see how quickly this one begins and this one, you know, ends. It's right there. And this is the edge that I'm talking about right here. And it looks very crisp when you zoom out. It looks very crisp, but you see the magic when you zoom in. Okay, so this is done with just, you know, paint crusted on top of paint. But if we compare, for example, this edge to the one right above it, you see how gradually it shifts from purple into this bluish greenish area up here, how would you describe this edge, right? So it's much softer. Okay, so in the water itself is soft because what he's painting is a reflection, right? Remember, he's painting a reflection and he's painting the movement of water. And then what goes on top, the leaves and the flowers, those are going to be much harder because those are the definite, defined objects that is on top of this moving energy of this painting. So I hope this this makes sense to you. And yeah, it's Monet is a genius for painting the intangible, and trying to sum up the intangible can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. But just remember, you've got these different areas. You've got the peaceful area here, and then the peaceful area here, and then all kind of the point of dynamism, the dynamic tension is right here. This is my favorite part of the painting right here because there's just so much going on with this coming down like this and then this moving up into it. It's really quite beautiful. So take some time on the website, zoom in, marvel at the colors, and I look forward to seeing all of you in class Wednesday night. Thank you.